All right, so now that we've covered the basic text editing options, I want to show you a few more advanced text editing options. So at the top of your text editing palette here, you've got this last little icon here. If you click on that, it's going to give you a little drop down menu, and in this little dialog box here, you've got all the text editing options that you need, and there's some really good ones in here. So you can change from this little spot here, you can change to whatever font style that you like and preview it quickly. You can also change the font style to bold, semi-bold, whatever you like as well. And you can also change your font size. And then you've also got these other options down here that you can change the look of your text. All right, so worth playing around with. This one gives you all caps. So it goes from having cap and lowercase to all caps. This one I really like. It gives you small caps, which could look quite cool. So there's all sorts of editing options there, and you'll find that there's also a little drop down menu that also provides them. And then if you go ahead and do too much to your text and it ends up being a hot mess, you've got the option to reset the character here. You've also got the anti-aliasing is located in this box here, so you can make sure that you've got your smooth set to on so that you don't get those jagged edges. All right, so let's have a look at a few more of the more advanced text editing options. Now, the three next options I want to talk to you about to modify your text are leading, tracking, and kerning. All right, so leading controls the space between lines of text. So you can see here that I've written out this text and there is a space between the first line and the second line. Now you can actually change that distance. So if you wanted to fit more text into a certain area, you can sort of squish it down. So at the moment, it's set to the default of auto. But if I was to go down to 48 pixels, hang on, let me just highlight the text. If I go down to 48 pixels, you can see now that distance is a lot smaller. So that's the leading. The kerning refers to the distance between two individual letters. So let's have a look at how that looks. So imagine you've got a couple of letters and you either want to bring the two letters closer together or further apart. What you need to do is bring your text cursor in between the two letters, come over to your kerning drop-down menu, and you can either choose to bring them closer or further apart, or you can bring them closer. All right, so that's how that works, and that maybe there might be just like one individual letter that you want to adjust. That's the kerning will do that. And finally, tracking controls the spacing between letters or text. So if I highlight this text here and we come over to our tracking, I can either make it all a lot more compressed. All right, so it squishes all the text up together, making it really difficult to read, or I can spread it all out. Okay, so let's have a look at a real-world example of how you might use these controls. All right, so I've got Jan from Accounts who's designing a business card. So what I want to do is just make this all look a little bit neater and more visually pleasing. So what I'd like to do is make the word accountant fit under Janet Jones. So I just want to spread out these letters so that they're both spaced evenly. So what I can do is highlight the word accountant and just spread it a little bit more. And now you can see that the word fits under each other. And maybe I want to just compress it all a little bit more. So I can maybe just make it a little bit more compact. That's probably too much. Try there. And that's the sort of stuff you can do with using the different settings there. And then I can also maybe make Jan's name bold. And the word accountant, I can maybe make that light. And maybe just spread that out a little bit more. That's better. And I might spread out Jan's name as well a little bit. There we go. So that's the sort of stuff you can do. You can play around with that, and maybe I might put an underline there, pop a line there. And now that I've done that, I want to drop the word accountant a little bit. I'll maybe set that back to auto. Much better. If you're a beginner with all of this sort of stuff, it's best to stick to one kind of font, because too many fonts can be difficult to read and they end up looking like a hot mess. And it's just like when you start out with Lightroom, you want to apply every filter and adjustment onto your images, and it's just better at the start to keep it simple until you learn about how the different fonts work together. So make it easy on everyone trying to read your text, and just keep it simple. Now, another thing to remember is the difference between the two different kinds of fonts. So you've got sans serif fonts, which are easiest to read, and there's some examples there on the screen. And then you want to avoid fussy fonts, which again, very, very difficult to read. Now, you've got two different kinds of fonts, serif and sans serif. And the serif is these squiggly bits on the end, and sans serif is the cleaner font, does not have these squiggly bits on the end. All right, let's have some fun and try placing text in a circle or any shape whatsoever. It's actually really easy. So I'll get a new document up. Okay, I'll show you the layers palette so you can see what's going on. So in order to place text in a circle, we first need to create a path so that Photoshop knows where to put the text. And it's really easy. Just under the text tool, you've got your shapes option. So if I right click on that tool, you'll see that there's a drop down menu and you've got several shapes to choose from. I'm going to choose the ellipse tool, and if I hold the shift key as I drag that out, I'm going to get a uniform circle. If I don't hold the shift key, I can make it oblong or any shape I want. So I'm going to make a nice circle there. Then I'm going to select my text tool. Now notice that the circle I've made is actually highlighted blue, and what this is it's actually created a path. And so this is how it's going to be easy to place the text in a circle, and knowing this, you can create paths and create text around anything. So once I've got the text tool selected, what I'm going to do is come in, and you can see that the icon, when I hover over that blue line, the icon is going to change. And you see that it starts as an eye with a line underneath. When I hover over, it'll change to the eye with the line going through it. When you see that the icon has changed to that, if you click on the path, that blue line, the text, Photoshop will automatically drop the dummy text around in a circle. So watch this. Bang. And there it is. So, and then all you need to do is start typing your text over the top of that, or copy and paste your text. So you can start typing in a circle. I type with one finger, by the way, that's why it takes me so long. So that's that, really super easy. All right, a variation of typing around a circle is to type inside, to place the text in the shape of a circle. So again, I'm going to create a circle, select my text tool, and this time I'm just going to hover my mouse where I want the text to start and just click. And then Photoshop will place the text within that circle. So you can see that there is a lot of great options where you could work with this sort of thing, and it's not limited to circles. You can place text in any shape you want. So if I click on my shape tool again, I can actually select some other shapes as well. So if I go to the custom shape tool, so just right click, it's that bottom one there, you'll see that you get a little drop down menu up the top here, and you'll have a whole selection of custom shapes. I'm going to choose the love heart, and I'm just going to create a new layer to work on. Nice clean layer. We'll get rid of the other stuff here, and I'm going to draw a love heart. Okay, and then just come back with my text tool and click there in the middle, and then what I'm doing is copying and pasting some other text just so you see how that looks. So now I've got text in the shape of a love heart. So that could come in handy if you're shooting weddings and maybe you wanted to provide the wedding vows as part of a love heart on one of the images or something like that. You've got so many different options, and it's so easy to do. And using the same technique, I can also use that to create a path to place the text around the love heart. So again, just selecting my text tool, going over the path, waiting for the cursor to change, click, and the text goes around like that. All right, let's take it up a notch now. So if it works on a shape, it'll work on anything. So I've got an image of a man here, and what I can do is I'll select my any selection tool, and what I'm going to do is come up to the checkbox that says select subject, and this is allowing Photoshop, when you've got a simple image like this, uncomplicated, where it's a white background, make a selection. If it's a bit more difficult, you're going to need to make that selection manually. But once I've got the selection, you can see the marching ants there. What I'm going to do is right click on the image and come down to make work path. Okay, and so just hit OK. And you can see that basically all I've created is a work path, which was exactly what the shape tool was. So I can now come in and select my text tool, bring it over to my location, and I can, when I hover that icon over the path, anywhere that's blue, you'll see that it changes from the eye to the eye with the line through it. Click. And there's my text going all the way around the person. So you can place text around anything. All right, let's have a look at how to stylize text and even add an image inside of the text. So in order to do that, you'll need a background image. So I've got this image of Luca that I'm going to use. Now, the first thing you need to make sure when you've got your background image selected is you need to make sure that the background is not locked. So if I double click on that, now I've got layer 0 and there's no little lock there. That's important. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and type text over my image. Now I'm using a like a vintage style text that was popular in the sort of the 50s in Italy that I love. So, and I'm going to write Italia here. And then I'm going to transform my text. Now, I don't think it's going to be big enough from the drop-down menu, so I'm actually going to select the Move tool and just pull that out and make it fill the frame, I think. Something about there. Make it a little bit bigger. Okay, and I'm also make sure that your type is black. All right, so once you've done that, you've created the type, whatever word you want to have, on top of your original background layer that is unlocked. What you need to do is drag your text underneath your background layer. All right, so the text will actually disappear. Now, select your original background layer, and what you're going to do is hover your cursor so that it's between the two lines. All right, so you just want it to be between those two lines, and at the same time, once it's there, you need to click the Option key on a Mac, Alt on a Windows, and you'll notice that that little finger, the hand, will change from a finger to a drop down arrow. So have a look. You see that's not holding the Option on a Mac or Alt on a Windows, and once I'm holding it, I get that little arrow that points down. So that's basically what I'm doing, is I'm telling Photoshop to clip the top layer to the bottom layer, and this is when the magic happens. Bang. So there you go. So now I've got my background is now visible in my text. So now I've got the option to either move around my text to place it in an area, or I can actually move my image to just make it all look a lot better. So I like this pathway. I'm going to have that in the L, this little pathway here, just peeking through. You can do whatever you want to make it look good. Now, I could leave it at that, but what I want to do now is just make my text look a bit sexier. So what you can do is you can actually transform the text and you can give it a three-dimensional feel, and it's quite easy to do. Okay, to modify your text layer, what you need to do is select the text layer, right-click, and you want to select blending options. So it's the top option. And once you do that, you'll get a dialog box that comes up and gives you all the different blending options, layer styles for this text layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, I want to give the text a bit of a 3D look, make it look a little more solid. So I'm going to check bevel and emboss. And if I double click on that, it'll give me the dialog box that I can see. And you can see the default, it's already started working. So basically, you've got all the different options that you can play around with. You can change the bevel from outer to inner. All right. You can emboss, pillow emboss, so you can have a play around. There's so many different options. I'm going to stick to outer bevel. You can also change the look from smooth to chisel hard, okay, and I can also change the depth of that as well. So that's that, and you can also change the direction from up to down, okay, and you can see what just happened there, and also the size. So you can make it look even fatter, the lettering. So, but I like it quite classic like that. That looks good to me. And then you can also soften your edges, and lots of different options that you can play with, and also the shadows. You can change the opacity for the little drop shadow in the background. Okay, so once you're happy with that, you can also play around even more. You can add a contour, and you can add a texture overlay, and then you can go into the texture overlay and you can play with different patterns as well. There's so many things you can do. It's well worth having a play around. You can even make it bricks if you want. Lots of different things that you can do. I'll go with something like a bit sandstone-y, a bit finer, I think. And then you can also change the scale of that texture as well, and even the depth. So that's a few things you can do there with the different layer styles. You can add a drop shadow as well, and play around with that distance, how far the shadow is, so many different things you do. So worth jumping in and just having a play around with that. I'm going to take those drop shadows off. All right, so there you go. That is how to bring text through your lettering in Photoshop.